So Democrats found a way around the Constitution to give themselves $34,000 pay raises. Let's talk about it. So a little notice rule change made quietly by Democrats in the final days of their majority last year gave House members a long-delayed increase in compensation, allowed them to reimburse the cost of living, food, travel, while they're on official business in Washington. Now, the last time Congress got a pay raise was in 2009, when the base salary for a congressperson or a senator went from $169,000 a year to $174,000 a year. Now, for Congress to give itself a pay raise, they have to comply with the federal Constitution and the 27th Amendment. The 27th Amendment states, "No law varying the compensation for services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened." This simply means that if Congress raises its pay, the pay raise would not take effect until the next election, letting the voters weigh in on the increase. Now, the 27th Amendment, which is the last amendment to the Constitution, has a very interesting history. It was actually submitted by the first Congress back in 1789 for ratification by the states. It was part of the Bill of Rights, but it wasn't ratified by enough states at the time. The amendment didn't actually fail, just some states hadn't taken it up. So it's kind of sat in the shelf until enough states ratified it. Now, let's fast forward about 200 years to 1982. This guy, Gregory Watson, an undergraduate student at the University of Texas, started a campaign to get enough states to ratify this amendment. Here he is giving an interview on The Daily Show.
Hi there.
Hi.
Who are you?
I'm Gregory Watson. I'm responsible for the ratification of the 27th Amendment to the federal Constitution.
That's right. This Lone Star scholar got an amendment ratified to the Constitution, like the Supreme Law of America Constitution, as in the 1787 Founding Fathers Constitution.
See, in 1982, Mr. Watson saw a little quirk in the law. See, the amendment had been sent to the states to be ratified, but there was no time limit on when the ratification had to end. So it was kind of like sitting out there in limbo all this time for about literally 200 years. So starting in 1983 and ending in 1992, 29 states ratified this amendment. Then Congress passed a resolution in 1992 to recognize the legitimacy of the amendment by a vote of 513 to 3. In total, 46 out of the 50 states ratified the amendment, the last being Nebraska in 2016. So the Democrats, before leaving power, recognized that they hadn't gotten a pay raise since 2009 and decided to see if they can work around this pesky constitutional amendment. So as the New York Post reports, thanks to a backroom deal, House members can now claim automatic reimbursements of $258 a night for lodging expenses and $79 a day for meals in D.C., even if they don't spend a dime. Now, this rule change would allow members to pocket up to $34,000 extra dollars a year. And it's not considered a pay raise, but a reimbursement, an automatic reimbursement if you don't spend a dime. Now, members of Congress make about $174,000 a year. So if you add another $34,000 a year, that takes them well over the $200,000 mark. Now, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat from Brooklyn, defended the measure and denied that this was a pay raise. It's only a reimbursement. Listen to how many times he used the word bipartisan in this press conference.
Chad. Thank you. There are new provisions in the House now for members to get reimbursements for rent and utilities and meals and things. We understand how tough it is to pass a pay raise here, but is there a concern that some in the public might interpret this as a pay raise? Are members getting something extra on top of this, and is that politically a problem?
No.
Why not?
It's a reimbursement.
But talk about that. Couldn't people perceive that as an issue? I know that was something you argued for back in December.
The effort to make sure that members are reimbursed for housing expenses has been bipartisan in nature from the very beginning. It was a bipartisan recommendation from the House Modernization Committee. There was then a bipartisan unanimous vote taken by the House Administration Committee in late December of 2022. There was a bipartisan process working with the nonpartisan CAO to develop procedures for the reimbursement mechanism to be appropriately implemented. And then another bipartisan unanimous vote was taken at the end of March.
So you may be asking, why do it this way? Well, that's because Congress has a super high disapproval rating, and they wouldn't dare raise their pay 20%, right? It would be crazy. That would be political suicide. So just saying, hey, it is a reimbursement, that means nothing. And look at this. Remember, if you work a job out there, any regular job, you know that if you have to buy something to get reimbursed for, you got to provide a receipt. But in this system, you don't need to submit a receipt. Here it is. The New York Post reports, the new benefit system does not require the submission of receipts. And why? What's their reason? To reduce the burdens and address the potential security risk of providing receipts. Because again, if it's a reimbursement, you have to provide receipts. That's how it works with any other company on the planet, except if you're in Congress and want to secretly give yourself a pay raise, but not call it a pay raise. So as the New York Post reports, after Republicans captured the House majority in November, the Democrat-controlled House Administration Committee rushed through a provision in December to boost members' pay. It was their last act as the majority. Now, I think it's kind of hypocritical because the Democrats always claim to be the house of the regular people. We don't want your money. We want to work for you. We can live off of regular salaries. But secretly, they're paying themselves an extra $34,000 a year. And that Constitution thing that we have to follow, don't worry, we'll just call it a reimbursement. And do you need receipts? No. No receipts. Don't worry about it. The money is yours no matter what. So if I don't spend my own money and they just are giving me money, that doesn't sound like a reimbursement to me. That sounds like a pay raise. But as Hakeem Jeffries says, just as long as we call it reimbursement, we're fine constitutionally. Is that accurate? Now, to put another nail in his coffin, the new benefits are tax-free. So House members could pocket a pre-tax equivalent of $50,000 a year in extra income, based solely on unverified claims, because if they were verified, you'd have to provide receipts. But right now, you're getting the money just for being alive. How is this not a pay raise? So, as you can see, Congress is trying to avoid the Constitution here. As this article says, Congress's unconstitutional pay scam to get members $34,000 in pay raises. So yeah, AOC, Hakeem Jeffries, and Nancy Pelosi, they got us. They got us. They gave themselves $34,000 pay raises, and no one votes on anything. No one does anything. We'll just call it a reimbursement and say it was bipartisan. But what do you guys think about this? Do you guys think that Congress should just be able to give themselves $100,000 a year and say, hey, we don't need to see receipts. We're going to call it a reimbursement. What can't they reimburse at that point, right? They can just, hey, we're going to give you $200,000 a year. We don't need no receipts. We're just going to give it to you and call it a reimbursement for breathing and being alive. Like, this is really getting ridiculous. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Is this legitimate? Should this be stopped? Should the courts get involved with this? Should they be sued for this? Because this is insane, especially because it violates the U.S. Constitution. Let me know how you feel in the comment section. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm going to see you next time. Peace.